Tabe has just released Arc 9 Chapter 26, and this video will be a summary of the chapter. Highly recommend you check out my Arc 9 Chapter 25 summary. Anyways, let's begin. A fierce aura filled the room. Even though Yae had steeled herself, especially under dangerous circumstances, this was an event that was extraordinary. Wilhelm Trias. The name rolled across Yae's tongue. Only one move was exchanged. A kick to Yae. She was currently at a disadvantage. Had Yae not jumped backwards at the impact of the kick, there might have been a boot-shaped hole in her stomach. The sword demon himself graces us with his presence. I'm thrilled to meet such a celebrity, especially after you avenged your wife. Yae continues by stating that Wilhelm had apparently met his wife once again afterwards in Pre-Stellar, giving Wilhelm her sympathies, albeit sarcastically. Yae puts her hands near her eyes and does a boo-hoo expression, pretending to cry. However, Wilhelm remained calm, and Yae states that she believed that Wilhelm would be more hot-headed. Yae asks if Felt did something, since no one but the shinobi village elder can see through her stealth. Felt states that she hasn't done anything since she is tied up. Yae could tell that Felt was being honest. If Felt was acting right now, then her deception ability would be impressive. Yae tells Felt to not run or else. However, Felt tells Yae to focus on what's in front of her. Yae, however, had never let her guard down, and Wilhelm was not moving. Most shinobi techniques work by catching their opponents off guard. Wilhelm was probably figuring out a way to counter the steel threads. 4 moves, Wilhelm mutters. Yae unleashed 32 threads of steel with the intent to kill. If she held back, the threads would not harm Wilhelm. The threads then spread apart, but Wilhelm blocked it with his swords. The floor was ripped up and launched at Yae, who caught it and then rebounded the floor rubble back at Wilhelm using her threads. However, Wilhelm then pierced the floor rubble that was launched at him using his sword and negated the momentum of the rubble. 3 moves, Wilhelm mutters. Yae lashed out using her steel threads. However, Wilhelm stabbed through the floor rubble that he caught with his sword, aiming right at Yae's neck. Yae dodged and lets Wilhelm's sword pierce the wall. Yae didn't take her eyes off the sword demon, and she realized that this was a mistake. The sword pierced to her right, meaning that she could only dodge to the left. Wilhelm then kicked off the floor, and then kicked off the roof, and then slashed Yae. The scene changes. Wilhelm van Astria, no, Wilhelm Trias, was in Pre-Stellar to look for a cure for Krush. Capella had infected Krush, and as a result, Krush was in agony since. Even with Felix, known as Blue, couldn't actually do much with his healing magic. However, there was a glimmer of hope. The way to the Petelguese watchtower had opened. If they borrowed the wisdom of Shula the sage, they maybe could cure the curse on Krush. Krush had her memories eaten, and Felix spent a year to rebuild the trust between them. However, it was a new form of trust. It could not replace the bond that they had before. However, lust came along and destroyed the relationship they had built by cursing Krush. Wilhelm and Felix were unable to sit still, and so they headed to the royal capital. After all, there was experimental journeys to the Petelguese watchtower. However, once they reached the royal guest house, they met Otto, the internal affairs officer for the Emilia camp. There, Otto explained how the kingdom might fall into ruin, making Wilhelm once again pick up his sword. Wilhelm cut into Ye, but Ye's body sank into the floor as she used her threads to tear open the floor. Wilhelm chased after Ye whilst reclaiming his sword that was stuck in the wall. Ye's shoulder was heavily injured. However, both shout in unison, "I will finish this here." As Wilhelm dived into the hole, a spiderweb of threads glimmered in his vision. The scene changes. Ye used her threads to stitch her shoulder back together. She marvelled at the might of the sword demon. The first move blocked Ye's steel wire. The second move to kick away the slashed floor. The third move that pinpointed the floor rubble that Ye deflected. And the fourth move was the slash that would have taken her life. So Wilhelm predicted 4 moves, and he would have ended Ye's life if she did not avoid it. They are all awful old men, the wicked elder on the plains that Al nearly lost to, and now the sword demon. In a life where you could be snuffed out at any time, these old men show that they survived the brutalities of life. That's why old folks are terrifying, you know. Thinking old people are weak or fragile? Keep doing that and you'll end up 6 feet under. The voice of the village chief resonated in Ye's mind. Deceiving the eyes, unsettling the mind, binding their movements, and taking their life. That was the art of the shinobi. Even though Ye mastered deception, she was no match for the village elder. She wasn't as twisted to live as long a life as him. In fact, she was nearly killed by Al. She didn't believe that miracle would happen again, being allowed to live by a kind-hearted monster. Ye watched Wilhelm chase after her, as if he had experience fighting shinobi in the past. Ye cursed Wallachia for sending shinobi against Wilhelm and failing to kill him. Ye's eyesight in the darkness was normal, as bright as day by using her technique. As Wilhelm came down, she states that she will end it here. Ye prepared her field, the killing field of the Crimson Sakura. This underground hollow was not something built by Priscilla Bariel, but a remnant of Leap Bariel. Leap Bariel, who had trust issues, had many secret treats and escape routes. Ye used one of his escape paths, albeit she had destroyed most of it, so that it would be a large hole so she could fall into it. She despised Leap Bariel for trying to make a beautiful girl like Priscilla marry him, and then use Priscilla as some form of puppet. But Ye did respect his disaster planning. Ye prepared a platform rigged with steel wires. Placing felt in the room above was simply all part of her plan, so she could reach this hole. Ye slipped out of her shoes, and from her 10 fingers and 10 toes, steel wires launched everywhere. Ye caught herself on the wire, launching herself around like an acrobatic. She looked like a flower petal dancing in the wind, and wherever she went, she left blood behind her, hence the name Crimson Sakura. Threads cut into Wilhelm, splattering blood. However, he remained focused and slashed his swords out. Wilhelm could only strike where he could reach. However, Ye always stayed out of range. Every movement launched a wire that cut into Wilhelm, making him bloody. If Wilhelm's focus slipped, he would lose a limb, or worse, his life. Despite being in a situation, his eyes held no despair. Ye wouldn't let her guard down. She had assessed Wilhelm, regardless of what Heinkel said in the past. She was wary of 2 attacks, one where Wilhelm would kick off the wall, or if he was to throw his sword. Ye launched wires at Wilhelm, and Wilhelm slashed downwards and kicked off the wall. Wilhelm then threw his twin swords, but Ye dodged him and used her threads to cleave Wilhelm. Wilhelm then slipped through the threads, but had no weapons left to defend himself. However, Ye did not let her guard down. Wilhelm once again kicked off the wall and landed back to where his swords were impaled on the wall. He then kept launching himself off the walls and chased Ye upwards up the hole, who tried to escape. Wilhelm had remembered the thread placement when he fell into the hole earlier, and he was sliding through the gaps as he kicked off the walls as he chased Ye upwards up the hole. Ye decided to use her trump card. By tightening all of the wires, she would be fixed in place, but the wires would recoil randomly. Not even Ye could predict their path. A capable mind adds something extra, Ye says. The threads lash out randomly, and Ye kisses her ring. A flame spreads across all of the threads, and they explode. Wilhelm was caught by the explosion, and Ye says that she will keep this a secret from Heinkel. However, Wilhelm states that he should know that I'm here. Wilhelm slashed the threads and the flames away. Ye is shocked that Wilhelm is alive and her torso is slashed. Ye realizes that Wilhelm had used her own threads himself to avoid her attack. Wilhelm says that he observed the threads many times, and when you approach them with a specific angle and force, they do not cut you. Ye then asks about the fire, and Wilhelm says that he simply cut through it. Heinkel's voice enters Ye's mind, where Heinkel says that his old man is tough and is the sword demon for a reason. Ye admits that she miscalculated it. Wilhelm's strength was greater than the White Whale subjugation, greater than the Battle of Pristella, and greater than the fight with the Sin Archbishop of Sloth. Ye couldn't know that Wilhelm was once again nearing the peak of swordsmanship again, the same peak that allowed him to defeat the sword saint Theresia van Astria. Therefore, the battle ended at the Burial Manor with the sword demon himself staining the crimson Sakura with its own blood. And with that, the chapter ends. So it was a good chapter. I don't think Ye died. I'm pretty sure she'll be left alive. Similar to this whole idea of being let alive by a kind-hearted monster, in this case Wilhelm. So I don't think Ye will die. I hope this doesn't mean that Al will get defeated and trapped by Emilia. That will be disheartening, but we'll see what happens.